that this meeting is being recorded, so that we can hopefully share this out, and to let Angelenos know that you know, the neighborhood council presidents are actively talking to each other and trying to see what we can do to coordinate efforts. A couple of guidelines. Please put yourself on mute unless you are actually speaking. I do have a button here that says mute all and unmute all, but I'd rather not go there. I'll leave it. I'll leave it up to you guys to go ahead and mute yourselves.
I'm not afraid to use it.
Let's see. Step up, step back. If you're a person who usually likes to pontificate, please step back so that others can join in the conversation. And if you're someone who has a tendency to be a little more quiet than others, please find your inner voice and step up, and because we'd love to hear from you. Okay, for those who are on the computer, there is a Zoom group chat. And so what I will do is I'll announce the agenda item, and then I'll open up the floor. If you want to give a comment, put over in the Zoom chat your name and your neighborhood council, so who you are and where you're coming from, and then we'll use that as kind of a sign-up list, speaker card sign-up list. If you're on the telephone, obviously then you don't have the chat. Just go ahead and speak up with your name and neighborhood council. Rana is going to try and keep all of that straight. Did you want to say something, Rana?
Yes, I did. So I do believe if you are on your phone, you can actually swipe up. There's a little bar that comes up on the bottom. You could swipe up and it does give you an opportunity to send a message via chat, and it'll populate up here, and so I'll be able to keep track of it.
Okay, and that's awesome. And then I believe there was one person that contacted me that said they were not exactly tech savvy, and so that they would just be calling in on the phone. Yes, okay. So let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, only one person to speak at a time. Try to keep your comments brief. I do believe that we have quite a bit to go over in 2 hours. So if you could kind of limit it to a minute or two, just be on point. Be ready to make your point as quickly as you can, as succinctly as you can, and please be kind and gentle with everyone. We're all under a bit of stress here, and so we want to make sure we lift people up during this time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. Okay. Not sure what you all are seeing. Do you all see the agenda? Yes, Rana?
Yes. It's just populating, Rachel, yes.
Okay. All right. So let's just go ahead and get started. Number one, NC teleconferencing of general board meetings. Draft letter for consideration to be CC'd to the mayor, city council, Bonk, and Dunn. No vote needed, just a request on to consider signing on as president. One thing to say about that and the first 4 agenda items is I understand that some folks may be uncomfortable saying that they're actually representing a position of their neighborhood council. So I think that maybe what we can do is on the letter say, these people are signed up for identification purposes only. So I don't know how folks feel about that. Dear Mr. Fuhrer, We, the undersigned neighborhood council presidents, commend the city for its quick action to limit public meetings in a time of unprecedented
Rachel?
challenges. Sorry?
Rachel, could you enlarge your screen, please?
This one?
Or enlarge the document itself, because I think it's not showing up very largely on the
That better?
screen for folks.
Is that better?
It doesn't look like it's changed much for me. I don't know if other folks are seeing it well.
Rachel, can I
You
make
maybe
a
have
suggestion?
two monitors.
Can I make a suggestion? When you go to share, don't share screen. You can share a specific program. So you can share Microsoft Word.
Now it's
That's
better.
perfect.
Now we can see it. Thank you.
Now you can see it?
Okay, I think
Yes.
this is Jeffrey Hartso. I wanted to mention two things. One is obviously the city council had a meeting over teleconference today, and there was also, I mean, I've had a number of conversations, but there was also an update from Dunn, basically laying out the framework for neighborhood councils having similar meetings. There are still some things that need to be worked out, some details, technology, and that kind of stuff. But there is effort, and I certainly have been pushing over the last 2 weeks to get this actually to happen. So if people aren't aware of the update or the city council meeting, then that would be a useful piece of information. Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Lynn Schaefer, may I comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking from Tarzana. Just wanted to let you know that really a letter directed to the city attorney is the wrong place
Okay.
because they don't have the authority to say yes or no. It's the department's job to say yes or no. It's only the city attorney and Department of Disabilities responsibility to review the procedures and determine whether or not they comply with the governor's emergency order and with ADA. So actually sending it to Mike Fuhr, at least in my opinion, would be a useless act. And that's about it.
I understand. The reason I wrote it the way I did was because I was being told by Dunn that they needed a determination from the city attorney's office.
They will eventually need the city attorney's office and Department on Disabilities review to determine whether or not it conforms with the governor's emergency order and whether it conforms to ADA. In other words, if somebody wants a TTY, how would we do that? And how do we control the public comment and such as that? So that's apparently what the department is working on now. Once they get it complete, then it would be up to the city attorney and DOD to look it over and say, yes, this is good. Go train them in it.
Okay.
This is Glenn Bailey.
Yeah.
Can I speak? So on the conference call that was held, with Raquel Beltran and joined by Mayor Garcetti, that 245 of us were on. Raquel Beltran made it very clear during that meeting that this was the ruling of the city attorney's office, and it was in their court. And in fact, 6 neighborhood council presidents sent an email to the city attorney, to our deputy city attorney, and we got a response that they're working on it. The city attorney. So we can certainly add Dunn to the list, but we need to make sure we're communicating with the city attorney. And then lastly, besides the fact they were able to work it out with city council meeting today, I just got an email from the Board of Recreation and Parks commissioners for their meeting on Wednesday that is exactly the same format as the city council. So I'm prepared, and maybe if all the neighborhood councils would just prepare an agenda, maybe with just one item, approve our MERs or something, and use the exact same format that the city council did, the Board of Recreation and Parks did, both city entities, and submit that to NC support and post it and see if those that want to use Zoom, and just do it and see what they say. If they have 99 neighborhood councils doing it, maybe that might force them to speed this up.
is
I'm with
Dr.
you.
Nathan. I want to speak to that. Laura Myers and I and several of the neighborhood council presidents in South Los Angeles participated in a meeting with Dunn. This issue did come up. Part of the issue with using Zoom is equalizing the playing field. They're saying that some of the neighborhood councils don't have the technology or lack knowledge of how to use Zoom. So part of the procedure that will be implemented will require all neighborhood council board members to be certified in their use of Zoom. So this isn't going to happen anytime soon. I'm just telling you what I heard. Don't kill the messenger.
No. Thank you for that. Somebody else wanted to say something?
Oh, well, John DiGregorio here from Panorama City. I agree with you, Glenn. I think that that's like a great idea, a way to show unification and kind of just draw the line, because I had an offline conversation with somebody from Dunn, I think a week before the shutdown, just to kind of ask, because we were, thinking about putting together our agenda, and they had nothing better to say than the city attorney has not changed their opinion at this time, and we have no further action that we can take. So I just think that, to stand united and to submit a one-line item agenda, that might be the way to go. That might be just a very strong way to go.
I actually have been discussing with a couple of my board members exactly that, and just to go ahead and try to push it through, and any pushback that we get, we can sit down and see what our redress is.
Tell them to file a grievance, right? That's what grievance. File 99 grievances. Hi, Tony.
Or maybe there's a lawyer in the group that could file a lawsuit.
We should be charitable, but we should also be realistic. And the conference call, it was very clear that the department didn't want to do this. They were afraid of the whole thing. And now that we have marshaled a certain number of forces to get it done, they're raising all kinds of ways to put it off, require training, raise equity issues to simply not be able to do it. I don't think that's acceptable to most of us. And also, several of us have written to people besides the city attorney, including people at Council Member Rue's office. I personally have received information from Council Member Rue's office that they are working with the city attorney and Dunn to get this done, as well as the next thing on the agenda, which is to get the rollovers done. I can also say that we have arranged, I chair the Neighborhood Council DWP Memorandum of Understanding Oversight Committee that meets every month. And I have arranged with DWP to conduct a WebEx online session for our first Saturday meeting on April 4th. So that will be open to everybody. WebEx is their tool of choice, so that's why it's there. So I think that moving forward with grace and appropriate notice is the appropriate thing to do.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Tony. Rachel, I'd like to point out Karen and then Albert had noted they had. Karen, did you want to go ahead and speak?
Oh yeah, this is Corinne from Glassell Park Neighborhood Council.
Hi, Corinne.
Yeah, I had just noted that I just got an email saying that they're still wanting us to hold off, and they're going to be trying out their teleconferencing system, but they want us that the hold order remains in effect until further notice.
Bullshit.
Thank you, Albert. And then Carolyn.
Yeah, this is Albert Farias from the Voices Neighborhood Council. I think what the letter to the city attorney should say is to question whether or not Dunn has the authority to prohibit the Voices Neighborhood Councils from meeting. I don't know where that is in their authority to be able to tell us that we cannot meet. This does not have to be technologically savvy. We don't need Zoom. It could be as simple as a conference call, a free conference call line that we all know how to use a phone. It does not have to be as complicated as they're making it.
Right.
To be quite honest, this is not going to go away in April. This can be carried out through May and June. We need to meet to be able to allocate resources in this emergency situation to all of our neighbors. And so I think the question to the city attorney should be, what authority does Dunn have to prohibit us from meeting and moving forward?
Well, was it the Dunn? Was it Dunn, or was it the governor's orders?
No, the governor's order relaxed the Brown Act for us to meet in this situation.
Oh, then.
I wanted to just bring up, we had this is Caroline Labiner, I'm from a Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. We had scheduled a town hall, a 20-minute presentation with the controller, and he would like very much to do a teleconference, and I've asked both city attorney and Dunn, and they are reluctant to allow us to do that, even though I was very clear, that we weren't going to have a meeting. It would just simply be a service that we were providing to the city, to our neighbors, to have a teleconference with the controller, and that he was willing to do it. So I'm concerned, because I don't see how that violates anything. I'm concerned that with the breadth of this issue, that if it's preventing us from doing anything, not simply meeting.
Thank you. One thing I can say as a member of the steering committee for the Alliance of River Communities, we have canceled our April meeting, but we're discussing for our May meeting to do a teleconference meeting. Certainly alliances and events such as yours, Carolyn, they're not Brown Act, they don't have to be Brown Act compliant.
So just to keep us on track and to allow everyone who actually noted that they'd like to speak. So George, Ira, Val, and then Laura, please.
Yes, this is George Scarpellis from Hollywood United Neighborhood Council. I agree with that. It is it certainly should be something we should consider, but let us not just dismiss the idea that there will be technological challenges. There will be people, I understand technology, I work with technology, and so for me it's very easy, but there are a lot of people who may not, on my neighborhood council, have very spotty internet access, and to not allow them to participate would be a difficult thing. So I think that as much as I agree with you, and I really want to be able to deal with at least the very basic of issues such as MERs and perhaps other kinds of emergency types of things, I think we also have to be cognizant that these issues are not necessarily easily adapted to by everybody.
Ira?
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to take a couple of quick points. One, we can do whatever they want, whatever we want, and then we send it on and they throw it in the garbage. So coming up and saying we're going to have a meeting, we're advisory. We don't make the rules. So I read the new Empower LA came out. One, they've given us $5,000 now to spend. That's pretty good. They're talking like 1, 3, and 7. They're talking about laying out the groundwork for doing it. Now, are they adept at getting this stuff done fast? No, I know that. But we are advisory, and that's one of the things that you want to waste your time having a meeting. And let's say it works. I get 100 people to my meetings. How am I going to get them on there and the Zoom and have everybody speak and get public comment? All of these things are the legalities. It's not up to Dunn. It's in the rules, the ordinance that we have to do. We can't break the ordinance. So I don't know about your councils. Our last meeting was a little rough, but in general, you get a 50 to 100 people. Yeah, that's going to be a really prodigious. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira.
Val? Val is on the phone. Is Val there to speak? Okay, maybe they logged off. We can move on. I think we might have lost them. They're no longer on here. Val, are you on? Would you like to speak? Okay, I guess not.
Okay, my microphone was off.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Valerie, Wilmington Neighborhood Council. How you doing? First of all, thank you for putting this meeting together. I think it's great. Also, I did want to say that the order was the mayor's emergency executive order of March 12th that he suspended us. Just to be clear. And then also, there are no emergency provisions anywhere besides for funding, unless you guys are aware of something that I'm not aware of. And then the other thing is that, yes, we are being silenced. It's not okay. City Hall having their meetings and the rest of the departments continuing to do their work and send us emails. So yes, I support all of this. I did send a letter that I was working on to everybody to see if these things can be included. Let me know when we can maybe discuss that. I don't want to go and take up too much time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony and then David. Tony?
We'll have to remember that the executive order.
Thank you.
There are two different Tonys. Sorry, it's Tony B that raised their hand.
Hi, Tony Braswell, Neighborhood Council, Valley Village. Two things. Something was said earlier. We don't need to think in weeks. We need to think in months. And everything we're doing right now needs to be grounded in the fact that this is going to go on at least until July. So, you know, the stonewalling and the slow moving of the city council, we're not thinking about April and May. We really need to be thinking about multiple months. The other thing is the mayor was on TV 2 nights ago and said that he's cutting all red tape, all bureaucracy, and this is not an example of that. And I think we need to hold those words up in anything that we do send. And I do agree that sending the letter to the city attorney, because that's, you know, Dunn told us it was their fault. That's the thing to do. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. David, Matt, and then Jeffrey.
Okay, Dave Ubersax, Winnetka Neighborhood Council President, Vice Chair of LANC. One of the things that we talked about, and LANC has been looking at this and pushing in as well. One of the things that has been of concern is reading the language from the relaxed status per the governor is that we would still need to provide accessibility issues, just like anytime else. If we have a meeting in person, if somebody has accessibility, translation, and that sort of thing, that's the kind of language, in addition to asking for the ability to be able to use teleconferencing, that's the language we would need to put in any such agendas. That's something we always do. It's a little bit different. So if somebody can't make technologically, that could be addressed on a one-by-one basis. I think the same thing might apply to individual neighborhood councils. To hold all 99 neighborhood councils down from doing anything, maybe there's a way of bringing up to an equal status those who aren't able to do Zoom or other things as readily, so that the rest of us can meet. I agree with what was stated just previously. The answer is not to shut us down. The answer is not for the mayor to come up with a new mailing list of volunteers and ambassadors when he's got a neighborhood council system that was built for just this sort of thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. So we'll have Matt and Jeffrey, and then Rachel, I think we should probably move on. I think folks. Okay, so Matt and Jeffrey, please go ahead.
Hey, it's Matt Wersinger, Delray Neighborhood Council. I agree with everyone. We've got to push on this, and we've got to really try to expedite this, because it's something we just have to be able to meet again. There's a lot we have to say. There's a lot we can do. I did watch some of the city council meeting today. It was really clunky. It was not a smooth system. They're still working on it. I think that this letter should go to the city attorney. I think it should go to Dunn as well. There's no harm in addressing it to both. I also think that the suggestion was brought up of addressing agendas to Dunn. I mean, they're just going to reject those. So I feel like our time is better spent, and their time is better spent trying to figure out how we can push this thing forward without just, you know, going ahead and unilaterally trying to hold meetings that they're going to say we can't hold right now. But I think this letter should go out, and I think it should go to Dunn and the city attorney.
Thank you.
Jeffrey, and then we'll move on.
I just wanted to clarify that there was a second executive order, which was on the 17th of March, N2920, which is the one that further relaxed the Brown Act requirements. And this is something that, anyway, I think that the city attorney is, well, I already talked to them today, but the effort will be to clearly define what those requirements are. And there is an emphasis on accessibility, ADA compliance, and all those other things that even if we send agendas and you hold meetings, you know, then I guess the consequence is there's a grievance and you have to rehold the meeting. But I think there is efforts underway to try to clearly define what's required. And then it's strictly a technology issue of whether the city will provide that technology for neighborhood councils to hold meetings, and or whether just by having a Zoom account that makes or complies would be sufficient. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to say anything about item number 2, the rollovers? I'm gonna kind of assume that we would all like to have our budgets rolled over to the next fiscal year.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually think that whatever time that this is George Scarpellis from the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council. I think that they should definitely roll it over, but I could also say if they could roll it over for a certain number of months, so maybe for usage within 4 to 6 months instead of the entire year, I would be okay with that. What I don't like is not being able to use our funds and meet and to, you know, identify obvious things we could use the funds at right now. And so they should at least push back, obviously not the fiscal year, but push back the time that we can use those funds.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, so John D. again from Panorama City. So I think I agree with you. I think that's great, like an aspiration, a good condolence to make to only give it up for a couple months. But practically speaking, the budget is just not going to be able to handle us retaining any type of cash year over year right now. I think, you know, a couple of us on the call are budget advocates. So, you know, we work with the city, and we just got out of a meeting with them where they couldn't begin to give the picture of what was going to happen next fiscal year with their revenues, or, you know, again, just like with how we're going to cover the costs of whatever public health crisis is going on. So I think just practically speaking, we shouldn't count on a dime rolling over, let alone our 10,000 that they've already agreed on, let alone us having a budget next year, which is always kind of a contingent thing that we've been lucky to have for 20 years. So I agree, like, great to hold on to and fight for, but practically speaking, we might not be able to get it.
Thank you, John. Tony Wilkinson would like to weigh in on this. Tony, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I had to
No, you're fine.
I agree with John about the fiscal disaster that we're looking at in the next fiscal year. But at the same time, I think that might augur for asking for the full rollover, because there's no guarantee we'll get 1 cent allocation in the next fiscal year. And I don't think that rushing to spend $5,000 at the urging of Dunn, the general manager is the one who wanted to ask for more, in consultation with the presidents, meaning that the department would make the decisions, not the elected board members. I think that might not be A, not very democratic, but B, not very wise. We might be better off rolling this money over, because that's all the money we may have. Just personal opinion.
Thank you,
Thank you. We'll have Danielle and then Laura.
Hi. So our neighborhood council, we usually, sorry, Harbor City. Our neighborhood council, we usually spend all our money
we technically only have about maybe $15,000 left. And I personally think that all our money really should go to the community. I've been receiving emails from parents from LAUSD saying they're running out of supplies for their kids. They need paper, they need scissors. We called LAUSD, they said they're gonna try to start working on that. I just got a letter from an employer who laid off 300 of his workers in our community. And, you know, all those workers don't have money right now. They still have to file for unemployment to try to get money. I mean, I think our money should be spent in the community. And I received two phone calls from 2 local food banks that were asking for money for food and transportation to rent a truck, so they're able to deliver to the veterans and people in need in our community. I think our money needs to be well spent while we still have it. There's $2.5 million of unspent money throughout all of the 99 neighborhood councils. I mean, they've already suspended all of our NC events. We're not using our money right now for operations. We should just go out and be able to spend all of it on the community that needs it right now. But I don't think there's no process, and they still have to approve it, and we don't even know how long that's even going to take.
So we have Laura M., Patty B., Glenn Bailey, and David Yu.
Okay, so a couple of things. I need to be able to move some money around so we can just spend some money on our website manager, because they also want us to do all the outreach. So that'd be current. And then that's not from the 5,000, or we have 4,000 left because we did already donate to a food bank. There are plenty of places we could be spending our money. I think we all just got an email today from the Department of Animal Services. They're setting up a community pet food fund for people who don't have the money to buy pet food, so that they don't turn in their animals to the closed shelters. I mean, basically it all plays together. I want to be able to roll over funds for events or MPGs that were already approved but are now not being processed. The event, we have a Walk on Washington, which is essentially just an annual thing where we're promoting the small businesses on Washington Boulevard, not walking on Washington, D.C. And those small businesses are going to need our help, whether it's in August or September or October, whenever we can redo the event. But we need those monies of several $1,000s to stay with us to the time where we actually have the event. So I don't know if the entire rollover would ever happen, but I certainly would like to roll over things we've all approved already. And I would like to be able to move around our budgets currently and be able to make donations as needed throughout the community, as, who was it, Danielle mentioned. Well, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Glenn Bailey, David Yu, and Jeffrey H.
How about me, Patty?
Oh, Patty.
I'm supposed to be next.
Pardon me, Patty, Glenn,
Okay.
David Yu, and Jeffrey.
I wouldn't want your job for anything right now.
Right.
I appreciate your patience.
She's doing awesome now. She's doing awesome.
Thank you.
So our neighborhood council is a lot different from the rest of you. I'm with Los Angeles downtown. We have to pay rent. There are no community centers in our area. There's no place for us to meet if we don't pay rent. We have other kinds of expenses that are just monthly expenses, and including, of course, our website and our website manager. If we start spending money now and can't roll it over and don't get any next year, we won't be able to hold meetings because we'll be out in the middle of the street with no place to go. So I would like to not have such a blanket request for everybody to either hold their money or have it roll over. We need every cent we can get just to stay in business. And I have over 800,000 stakeholders. I can't work with food banks or things, or have events like that will in any way take care of even a small part of my area. I really need to work with different types of things. So it's really important to us that we have money coming in that we can spend on a monthly basis just to keep going. Thank you.
Glenn Bailey, I guess I'm next. Some of you got an email reply from the deputy for Councilmember Rue, who chairs the committee that oversees neighborhood council. And the essence of that email, which dealt with both of these subjects, was that the council member was looking to put in a motion to effectuate the rollover of all of our money. I don't know that it's specified, but I think the intention was the 42,000. Hopefully you've all spent at least your 10,000 you rolled over from last year. I think, whether you agree with that or not, I think that we ought to support that effort. We can deal with it later on next year next fiscal year, when the dust kind of settles down. But if we don't get, this requires city council ordinance, a vote of the city council. Dunn can't do it. The city clerk can't do it. It must be an ordinance of city council. So my suggestion is we support this for a full rollover of up to 42,000. We can sort it out after July, but if we don't get city council to do it now, the only thing we will have is the 10,000 that's already in law.
Right. Thanks, Glenn. We have David, Jeffrey, and then Elisa.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing, and it really kind of applies to a number of these items. Working through Dunn, working through the city attorney's office, those are all good. But also another thing that we've done and had some favorable response is working out with the individual city council members, particularly if they are on appropriate committees. So I just wanted to put that out as another way of making it clear that we are here to help and want to be able to help.
Jeffrey?
This is Jeffrey Hartsoe from Sherman Oaks. It's a real question about whether we follow the rules or not. Without board action, in theory, we can't spend anything. We had up to 1,000, now we have up to 5,000. Having the funds rolled over would be nice because then we'd have access to it. But if we're going to lose access to the funds, I've recommended or suggested to that they just increased. In other words, if we can't get rollover of more than 10,000, that all funds that have not been spent thus far are subject to the emergency provisions, so that at least I could give money to the food bank or some other organizations that would help the community. Of course, somebody's going to suggest that that's a waste of money, but clearly even the mayor is asking for that kind of action. So I certainly support what Glenn has said. I mean, we should ask for everything, but the real issue has to do with whether the city clerk is going to change the rules, which I've been told they are looking at changing. But right now, without being able to effectively hold meetings, we can't approve funding of anything anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Elisa, and then Paula.
Elisa Avalos, Pacoima Neighborhood Council. Ideally, wishful thinking, I would love to be able to spend the money that we have left. Since everybody is saying that we might not have a budget next year, it would be great if we would be able to spend this money that we have left over in our budget to help out communities, our community, and be able to purchase face masks for police officers, for nurses, for doctors. Schools right now that are giving food away, they need protection also, grocery workers. What I've been doing, since we can't meet right now with neighborhood council, organizations that I've volunteered with before, and since we table at events, we get to know each other with organizations. I got 2 organizations put together, which is Alma Prep is a school that wants to open here in Pacoima, and Chica Moms. We have a list, we gathered a list of 19 seniors, and since last Sunday, we started dropping groceries off for them. I also got connected with Horizon. It's another organization where they drop off food. So what they've been doing, they contact me. They've been leaving me 50 trays of food twice a week. And I go around my neighborhood to houses that I know that seniors that live alone. And I just drop it off. I have my face mask on, my gloves. I just knock on their door. They give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if they want it or not. And I leave it on their door. The only reason that I cannot do it right now no longer is because 7 years ago, I had breast cancer, stage 3, hormonal breast cancer. So I'm still going through treatment. So I was crying yesterday because I got in trouble by my husband. He found out he works at night, and he found out I was going out when he would leave to work. So we've got our first case here in Pacoima. So it breaks my heart that I can't go no longer to drop this food off, but it makes me feel good that I'm connecting organizations. That's just
Thank you for the work that you're doing, and we're wishing you well, sis.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We have Paula next. Paula, are you there? It takes folks a minute to switch on their microphone. Is Paula here?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Paula Jerez from the Neighborhood Council Westchester Playa. We've actually had to send back money because we had approved events that were canceled. And we've been told that, well, originally we were told that the money would be sent back and we would get it back in our budget as long as they received it by May 31st. With everything going on, I don't even know if that's going to be an option, but I would definitely like the ability for money that's already been approved to be able to be spent this year. So I would be in agreement with this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this topic?
Okay, let's move on.
Actually, just sorry, one last thought. This is Glenn. Just for those of you know that if a already funded event, outreach event that had to be canceled, during the next, I guess right now officially till April 19th, or by the event sponsor, the city clerk funding program is requiring that the recipient refund that money to the neighborhood council. So you may think you have a certain amount of money, but if those refunds come in, then you'll have even more. And some of those events may get rescheduled till later in the next fiscal year, and so you'll be able to turn that money back around and give it to the event. But some events are being canceled permanently, or until they're not being postponed.
All right, before we move on, thank you, Glenn. Paula, did you want to add something?
Yes, I was told by Dunn that the refund has to be received back by May 31st. Otherwise, we forfeit those funds.
Glenn, do you happen to know have a response to that?
I had not heard that May 31st date. I do know that the last date the city clerk has to reconcile all the funds before closing out the books is the last date we can use the purchase card, which I believe is June 18th from memory. But I won't if they say the money needs to come back by May 31st, I think we should go with that for now.
Okay. Val?
Yes, hi. Okay, with regard to that $5,000 instead of $1,000 for emergency funds, I think right now the way they have it is they're only giving us $1,000 in case there's an emergency, and my thoughts are that it should have been $5,000 because it's not enough for us to help our community. We in Wilmington don't have a hospital. We only have clinics. So we have to the priority is to get PPE for those. The PPE will be going priority to hospitals, which means we will not be included because we only have clinics. And so, and it looks like other communities are in bigger need other than, the $1,000 is not enough. So I'm not sure because I wasn't aware about what took place on March 17th, but somehow we got 5,000 now instead of 1,000. Now that seems like it's coming from our general fund, but it looks like what my issue is that they had only given us $1,000 for emergency funds, and nobody knew we were going to be suspended. So now that we know that they were going to suspend us, 5,000 would be good to add to put that in the emergency policy instead of just have $1,000. So I think that it could have been a fire, it could have been a lot of different things, but going forward, planning for another emergency, $1,000 is not sufficient.
Thanks, Val. So we have a response from Laura, and then I think we can move on, Rachel.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not sure if you're saying, Val, that forevermore we should be allowed 5,000 for emergency spending. But this thing about the 5,000 just happened this week because Raquel was negotiating with whoever she was negotiating, saying, oh, this is a great benefit. You can't meet, but now you can figure out on your own how to spend 5,000 without collaborating with your board. Then to this morning, at least UNMC got an email from our person saying, go ahead and consult with your board members, just make sure it's less than half of a quorum of your board. This is totally different directive because that's still a Brown Act violation. So they're just making stuff up as they go along. So anyway, for Val, or you're talking about 5,000 should be forever, every year, or just this time? I couldn't understand.
Well, what I'm saying is in this case and in many other cases, yeah, 1,000 is not enough. But I always check with my executive officers, you know, regardless. And if I have to call them one at a time, I run it by them. But what I'm saying is that all we have, there is no provision and no emergency anything other than in the funding, and the funding is $1,000, and that's all we had to go by in this situation.
I would
now
I
would
would
have been
like
a problem if we weren't ended.
everybody else has had a chance to speak, and so I just like to wrap up this agenda item with this one quick comment.
All right.
I think that once this crisis is over, we need to sit down as a neighborhood council system and talk about what emergency powers look like for presidents when a state of emergency is declared. I'm also going to do that on an individual neighborhood council basis with my neighborhood council and look at how we can beef up our bylaws to be able to empower presidents in the future. Because like you said, the only thing we have right now, the only power I have right now as president is $1,000 and now $5,000. Other than that, I have no other power than that. And I just like to wrap that one up, this topic up just on that note, if we could. And I think it's something that we should visit in the future.
Which is why we need an extension on everything, not only bylaws, we need an extension on everything.
Just for everyone's information, please do look at the policies and guidelines from the funding program on pages 38 and 39. That describes the emergency funding situation. You've always had the authority to agendize and pass a motion to increase that $1,000 up as high as your board wants to do it. Obviously, you know, that's Monday morning quarterbacking, but we, if you did it every July, if you know, whatever dollar amount more than whatever's in the policies and guidelines, you'd have it for the rest of the year.
Interesting.
Which is what I included when I sent my letter to everybody.
I know that probably had your hand up.
All right, let's
but I think we should move on. And if you can, you're welcome to text your comment or response in the chat box, and that will be available as well.
Item number 3. I know that some of you are not exactly planning and land use people. I am the chair of my planning and land use, so I do understand this issue. In really briefly, this involves discretionary decision-making by the planning department on things like transportation-oriented communities and TOCs and things like that that are still going on as we speak through this crisis. And in almost all of those cases, the only time the public has the ability to do any kind of input is through the neighborhood council. And then the neighborhood council can file with the Department of Planning to have those voices elevated and heard. And so this is just simply asking, hey, you guys need to stop until the neighborhood councils are allowed to meet again.
All right, so we have Peter, Darcy, and Patty for this item. Peter Fletcher. Peter, we can come back. Peter, are you there? We can come back to you. Darcy? Darcy? Okay, we can come back to Darcy. Patty?
I'm sorry, I'm here.
No,
I just
you're fine. Oh, no, go ahead. No,
Does
that's
that
fine.
work?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Darcy,
It was on
please
mute.
go ahead.
So Darcy Harris from Echo Park. I'm generally supportive of suspending discretionary approvals, but I'd be more comfortable if we carved out an exception for emergency shelters, bridge housing, 100% permanent supportive housing projects for the homeless, and also hospitals, urgent care centers, testing, and any other sort of building that's healthcare related to address the crisis. I don't want to, imply we don't see the need for those to go forward. Morgues, whatever.
Kind of like what we got nailed on with Measure S.
Right.
Thank you, Darcy. So Patty, Laura, Tony, Brad, and then if Peter. Patty, go ahead.
This is Patty again from the downtown. I think that we probably have more planning issues coming through downtown than 5 or 6 of you put together most of the time. And we also have Skid Row, which is a big part of what we need to deal with. So I really think it's important that we have the ability to weigh in, and unless something is so important that it can't possibly wait, things like hospitals that don't come to us for approval to open anyway, but being able to go rampant on liquor licenses in an area like ours where we're getting saturated, we have large construction jobs going on, and even more important, we've got things going on at Skid Row that may or may not harm the people who are there, and we need those people to have a voice. The only voice they have right now is through us to talk about these planning issues. I really am very uncomfortable with us just being shut out of it, and the city just rocks on and does whatever it wants to do. I'm very much in favor of this item. I just think the language needs to be more strongly placed.
Thank you, Patty. Laura?
Yes, and I am the longtime land use chair for United Neighborhoods, and in fact have been working almost full time on these issues since this crisis began. So one thing that was done, and it started out with my request and some others, the time limits or time to act limitations in the municipal code have now been temporarily suspended. So you would think that's certain, but Kim Bernstein sent out an email to HPOZ boards about an hour ago saying, we're trying real hard, but just in case, planning staff, if you can't meet, might still go ahead and approve things. And it's completely because you won't have 21 days to act. And that's completely the opposite of what the mayor's order said. So clearly the planning department is trying to move on. So in my area, we have CPIOs. I'm in the South LA Community Plan and West Adams, Baldwin Hills, Leimert Community Plan. So we have the early adoptions of the overlay zones for commercial strips, and we have 11 character residential neighborhood overlays. I'm forgetting the name, but it's quote HPOZ Light. The planners know nothing about historic preservation who are assigned to this task, and they're approving things right and left even before this crisis, but at least we knew about it. So I'm totally supportive of this. It's not just TOC. You don't have the word CPIO or character residential overlay CPIO in this, and it should be added. And I agree with Darcy as well. I mean, obviously affordable housing should be an exception, but I have to tell you, in our area, the good affordable housing producers are working with the neighborhood councils and making changes to their projects before they submit them at all. That probably won't change because, they can go to lunch with me, I suppose. But I don't want to make full exceptions because these are permanent on the landscape for the next 55 years. So when we can help adjust a project to the betterment of the project, betterment of the people who will be living there, and betterment of the community, we should be able to do so. I don't know how we do that.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, we are going to be moving on. We have Tony, Brad, and then Peter. Tony B.
Tony Wilkinson?
Tony Braswell.
Okay.
Hey, how are you? let's not forget the community plan. Some of us are in the middle of our community plan process, and the public feedback is a really important part, and that just needs to be a part of whatever position we take. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could be handled under a separate cover. Tony?
The community plan, making it a separate, a wholly separate item, you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm totally open to that. Not everybody is in the middle of the community plan process. So I'm not sure. Either way works fine with us. We're right in the middle of public comment for our community plan. They've done a great job of listening to us. The community plan looks good. Our board's pleased with it, but they have to go through the community plan process, and I don't want to negate that right now just because we can't meet.
Thank you. We have Brad.
Okay, Brad Kane, President Pico Neighborhood Council, and I got an email today from the planning department reminding us that the comment period on a draft EIR is running in April. And I wrote back and said, well, isn't this contrary to everything the mayor said? We're suspending deadlines. It's like, yes, the mayor said that, but we're still doing this. And I think we need to say draft EIR comment periods need to be paused as well, because we're not able to do the normal outreach that we do to get comments in, and we can't have meetings. So if we could expand this to reflect draft EIRs, I would appreciate it.
Gotcha. And yeah,
and then we have Peter.
That draft EIR that you're referencing is for the sidewalk repair program, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And I agree with you totally.
Rachel, I'm on the list too at some point. I think I was like number 3.
So we have Peter and Tony. Did you want to add something, Tony? And then we have Val. So Peter, Tony, and then Val.
Peter?
Peter, are you there? Okay, we can come back to Peter. Tony, did you want to speak? And then Val, you're next.
Yes, and that is, I don't think it's reasonable to ask the entire planning process to come to a halt, because knowing the city, it simply won't happen. Asking for unreasonable things is never very effective. I view this as back to the problem of meetings. We should be able to hold online meetings to consider these things. And I agree that we should include HPOZ or whatever. I know there are all kinds of things that are going on that we need to weigh in on. There are lots of things that developers do agree with before they go to the city council with their stuff. This whole process can be done with online meetings. So the main issue is not to ask the city, in my opinion, to stop, but to urge the city to continue to involve the neighborhood councils, to remind them not to stop sending packets, not to stop sending notices, making certain to tell the people at the window to talk to their neighborhood council, because then using online meetings will find a way to weigh in. And if we don't have online meetings yet, we should publicize it to the public as a way for them to weigh in as individuals on things like EIR deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Val, and then Leonard.
Yeah, so it's such an unusual situation that we're in, but could you please add the Port of LA to that agenda item if you add departments? Because we currently, our community has a $400 million project by the Port of LA, and we want our community to weigh in on that. We want to be able to weigh in so anything that requires feedback, we want to make sure that they hold off on that. Not that they wouldn't stop the project for anything that was already approved, because we were just about to have the groundbreaking, but that if there's anything that requires any kind of community input, we would like them either to somehow allow us to give the input or to wait until a later date where we could give sufficient input and community input.
Thank you, Val. And if anybody has an objection to her proposal to add the Port of LA to this letter number 3. Please indicate, if you have an objection, please indicate in the Zoom chat, group chat. Otherwise, I'll do that on a unanimous consent.
Thank you, Rachel, for that, and thank you, Val. So then we have Leonard, and then Lydia's on the phone who would like to speak. So Leonard and then Lydia.
Okay, I'm not commenting on this. I'm going to sign out. It's getting on to be sundown and it's Friday. I just wanted to say I'm really impressed by everybody who's here. Extremely impressed. I'll take it back to the other commissioners. Trust me. I'll take it back to the department. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much. I got to sign clear. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Leonard. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
We have Lydia. Are you on the phone, Lydia?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, I wanted to bring something to everybody's attention. The city is pushing right now through motions to get the bridge housing rush through, basically with no barriers, no neighborhood council input. This has to be addressed too in the letter, and I'm going to tell you why. We are finding that the bridge housing during this quarantine, even as of yesterday, they're not quarantining the homeless. The homeless are coming and going from the bridge housing. So if their thought is to put it in because this is a COVID-19, we have to rush them through to have a place for the homeless, they're not making the homeless stay in them. And that should be addressed in the letter too. That if they're going to rush these bridge housing projects and these other shelters, that they have to quarantine the homeless in them, or what is the point of them using this as an excuse to rush them through?
Okay, I'll take that suggestion just like I did with Val's. If anybody has an objection.
I agree with Lydia.
If anybody has an objection to adding that to the letter, please indicate in the group chat. Both Val and Lydia got an objection over here.
So there are a few objections, and then we have Aaron who would like to speak as well.
Okay. Val, since there were no objections to yours, could you email me the language that you would that you're proposing? Okay. Aaron?
Yes. Sure.
Aaron, you're next. Yes, Rana?
Yes, Aaron, are you Aaron Block? Aaron, are you there?
Can I ask to clarify what we just objected to? That got confusing. The part about homeless people and the temporary shelter housing, is that what we're objecting to?
No.
Lydia?
No, it's quarantine.
What I am saying is the city is doing motions and planning is pushing through the homeless shelters, the bridge housing projects, and there's no room or way for the neighborhood councils to give any input at this time. The problem is they are not putting the homeless in them. The bridge housing complex, for example, Venice and the one downtown, the homeless are coming and going. They are not quarantining the homeless in them. So we need to make sure that if they are going to do this without our input, that the plan is to put the homeless in them and keep them there if they're using this COVID-19 and the need to quarantine as their excuse for pushing this forward.
I just am very hesitant to sign on to something like that without talking to my board. And our situation is very different than yours. And I respect yours completely, I promise. But that's a bigger issue that I don't feel comfortable. I would have to object just because I don't feel comfortable saying something to my board.
And I understand that. I'm not in an area with bridge housing. I am speaking for other neighborhood council leaders who've been coming to me asking for help.
I think
the initial genesis of this meeting was for us to discuss global issues that are affecting the neighborhood council system, because right now we're dead in the water. And item 3 came along as something that that was very simply that neighborhood councils were not able to weigh in on discretionary decision making happening at planning. Bottom line, that's it. any other issues that are affecting specific areas or even the city in general, but are not covered under this particular letter, I would suggest go ahead and drafting up a letter such as Lydia's issue, and then let's circulate that around. As I put in my email to you guys earlier, there is now a Facebook page for presidents. Thank you, Paul, if you're here, wherever you are out there. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think that we can still keep pushing some of these things, outside of this meeting.
Okay, so I'm in the interest of keeping us moving, yeah. Aaron, and then we have Val. Aaron. So I see you, Aaron, but for whatever reason, I cannot hear you. Is your audio, your computer audio working? Okay, it's okay. We can, if you don't mind, if you'd like, you can go ahead and text it to me, and I'm happy to read it. Or okay, and then Val.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on Lydia's suggestion, and it is somewhat relevant to this letter because this is covering emergency, what is going to be taking place during the emergency crisis for our community, and how we're not able to have a voice, that we have been silenced. And so what she's saying is there's things taking place in communities where our presidents and our board are silenced. And because of that, we're going to have an outbreak. This pandemic is going to get worse if they're not going to quarantine these individuals in the Bridge home. That's what she's saying. So I would like you to kind of understand where she's coming from, everybody. It's not anything against the Bridge housing or the homeless population, but that they also should be quarantined or tested if they're going to be staying in those. And many of the Parks and Recreation facilities will be used to house those homeless. And so it is critical that they get quarantined and tested if they're going to live there.
Thank you, Val. We have Elliot H. Elliot?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm from the Mar Vista Community Council. My concern is a little bit different. It's with regard to spending. If you look at the funding handbook, there are very specific things that we can spend money on using our emergency authority, whether it's $1,000, $5,000, whatever. It's things like water and refreshments for first responders. It's printing services. We can't spend on what we can ordinarily spend on as a neighborhood council. And those rules, it seems to me, are designed for things like earthquake or other acute natural disasters, and not really this situation. So I would love to see some kind of relaxation as to what we can spend money on, because it's not entirely clear to me that we can spend money granting it to relief organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. All right. Are there any other folks who would... Sorry, I muted myself. Aaron, did you want to try to speak again? I know I saw you try to get back on. Maybe that fixed your audio.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. I guess the only thing I wanted to say is that I feel like anything we're talking about folks experiencing homelessness, we should definitely have that as a different discussion, hopefully at a different time, because I think the development discussion is very different. So that's my only comment.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, Rachel, did you want to move on?
Yeah, and then just to wrap this item up.
Darcy, sorry, Rachel. Darcy just pinged. Darcy, did you want to add anything before Rachel moves on?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to kind of suggest, based on what Tony had said about, we could use this as a way to push to actually get our online meetings up, is instead of saying we don't want any approvals until after the crisis has passed, and we could hold meetings to say, until you guys get an online system and a reasonable amount of time after that, like a couple months or something. That I would just suggest in the letter that way.
Okay, I'm making a note. Thank you. And I was kind of angling in that direction. I guess the language wasn't quite precise enough. Okay. As far, Lydia, I don't want you to feel like we don't want to address that particular option issue. But I think that if you could draft something up, that's something that we could circulate and have that as a in and of itself that we could really push on as a singular issue.
Hi, this is Edward Morrissey. Can I speak?
Go ahead, Edward.
Yes, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, this is Edward with Atwater Village Neighborhood Council. If you could just take into account, Lydia, that the authority for quarantine is actually with the county public health officer, so the city really has no power to do anything of that sort. So, thank you.
And also, Lydia, the reason I'm saying this is that there were a number of objections. Everything else so far has been unanimous consent. So.
I would like to make one comment. I hear what you guys are saying, and I totally understand, and maybe we'll have to take this up as a separate issue. My point is, all of these projects are going through planning, and we have no input. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And so all these communities that may get homeless housing put in their areas without their neighbor councils having a say, that's why I asked for it to be added. If people object, that's totally fine. My community isn't one that's being addressing this. I've been trying to help others, though. But it's okay if you don't put it on. It can be addressed individually. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lydia.
Rachel, this is Dave Beauvais. May I speak just a moment before I have to sign off?
Sure, Dave.
Sure, Dave.
Hi, Dave Beauvais from Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. I just want to point out, we have a lot of people with a lot of background in our neighborhood council, not just stakeholders, but directors. And so my question is, why are we letting Dunn make the decisions as to what the protocol should be here? Why aren't we putting together an ad hoc committee to put together the protocol for meetings? We have people who are experts in teleconferencing. We have experts in how to run a meeting. We have experts in everything among the 99 neighborhood councils. My suggestion, as I sign off here, is that at the conclusion of this meeting, we try to put together an ad hoc committee that would address these protocols. And just basically, if you want to tell Dunn we're not satisfied, let's do this in a week or 10 days, put together a protocol ourselves, and give it to Dunn and say, here's what it is. Here's what the neighborhood councils have decided they need in terms of technology, in terms of protocol to run meetings. There's plenty out there that will guide us, and there's plenty of talent within to do that. So I would suggest a 5 to 7 member ad hoc committee, not just drawn from presidents, drawn from your directors, your stakeholders.
David, we do need to move on.
I understand, but I think that's something.
I think that's a conversation that can be had through email or there's the new Facebook group now, and so. But I definitely I think we all hear where you're coming from. And I think we can try to flesh that out at a later date.
Try to do that, because there's no reason. Dunn will do this indefinitely and put us off until we do it ourselves.
No, I personally don't disagree with you. Rana, we're going to move on.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I think you should.
David.
Yes, thank you.
Move on to number 4. Does anybody have any comment on basically, we have NCs that we're in the middle of, and I sit on the working group, the elections working group through the clerk's office, and there are neighborhood councils that we're working through bylaws changes that were requested by the city clerk's office. And so we just, you know, obviously April 15th is blown out of the water. How are we going to, you know, move into elections next year? So I'm hoping that this is kind of a no-brainer. We can get through this agenda item and get on to some of the other issues.
So we have Stephanie, Tony Braswell, and Glenn Bailey.
Okay, so basically for us, we bylaws changes. The only thing I would like to take out is to accommodate election-related changes as requested by the LA City Clerk, just because it makes it too narrow of an item.
Thank you so much. So we'll go on. Oh, sorry, Rachel, I accidentally sent that. Tony, Glenn Bailey, and Danielle S.
Can Glenn go first? Because I'll bet he's going to say what I probably want to say.
Sure. Glenn, did you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. I am also a member of the working group for the city clerk elections. But more importantly, I've been involved with neighborhood council elections over the years. And the reason this is relevant is because the deadline that we all were given was, although it's a done deadline, the city clerk has imposed a July 1st deadline to done neighborhood empowerment. So, and keep in mind that any bylaw changes that a neighborhood council makes must be approved by done, which means the staff, some of which have had more experience than others. If you have a board structure change, or if you have a boundary adjustment, that has to go before the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. And the last cycle, some of the commission meetings got rescheduled, postponed. So it's, you know, couldn't happen overnight. So I just want everyone to know, in terms of our response on this, that there are certain restrictions. And that July 1st date, we could try to pressure city clerk to maybe move that date back, but please don't blame Dunn for that date. That's not their doing. Now, as far as April 15th, if it's something that doesn't have to go to bonk, it seems to me that we could reasonably request a 30-day or 45-day extension, maybe to May 15th or June 1st, assuming that we get the ability in a timely manner for our neighborhood councils to be able to conduct virtual meetings, online meetings, telephonic meetings. One neighborhood council I'm associated with has already had the first reading of the bylaws. There were no objections. We were poised to have our second reading at our meeting last week, which obviously got suspended. So we're ready to go, but we can't hold a vote. And it's unlikely, unless this April 15th deadline is changed, those of us who just didn't get it in, I know many of you got it in, some of you got it in already, and great, good for you. But there are some that just have that last detail to do, or we're really rushing to get it done. So my recommendation is that we ask for at least a 30-day to 45-day extension. It will require more effort and hard work by Dunn, but they're being paid, they're being paid $85,000 or more. We're not being paid anything. So if they have work a little harder to get the bylaw amendments done and approved, let them do that. And there may have to be a marathon bonk meeting. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Tony, did you want to add anything?
That was spot on. Perfect.
Okay.
I would just ask that it's 60 days, not 45, because bylaw changes have to go in front of the board. Then we have to wait a 30-day period to vote on it. So 60 days would give us a window.
Okay, that's good. Danielle S. Sandoval, Danielle?
Yes. Hi. Okay, so we're in disagreement with Dunn. In our February meeting, we had voted, and it was passed to go elections. So it'll extend our term into 2021. In reading our bylaws, it was clear to us that it says that we were selections only in the year 2012. So we all agreed and we said we're going to go by our bylaws, and our elections will be held in 2021, not selections. Our NEA disagreed with us and said that if we wanted to do that, we had to do bylaws changes. So I had agendized it that we were going to do a bylaw change just to accommodate them and appease them. We were going to go ahead and vote for it, and of course we got canceled in March. So I'm already pushing for this, for the extension, because if we do have to do a bylaw change, we're not doing any boundary changes. We're not doing any structure changes. We're not doing anything. We're just going to take out the portion of our bylaws that says selections. That's all we're doing, just to make them happy. So I would like that extension to be done, because now we have to go back to the board and vote for it. And if we can't do that, now I have a fight with Dunn in regards to what our bylaws say. So that's my input. I would love for this portion to stay in it, or if it could just, if people are not in agreement with keeping the elections, just some wording that says or includes, because some of us do have adjustments that we need to make that do affect our elections.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I would like to ask, there was someone who just, sorry, Darcy?
Sorry, unmuting. Yeah, I wanted to just piggyback my suggestion. I wrote into Don was, if the sticking point seems to be the elections and the clerk gearing up for the elections, first of all, they should consider postponing them a month or two, like everyone's postponing everything, but if they, or however many months, but otherwise, certainly extend the deadline on any amendments that don't affect the election. So if it's not to board structure or to the qualifications of the voters, they should let us continue to at least tweak those things. That's sort of a fallback position to extending everything, but doesn't seem to be any reason to keep the deadline the same on things that don't relate to the election.
Thanks, Darcy. Clint, you are next.
Great. Darcy said exactly what I was going to say. I think that would be the key idea, is to separate the two and to make sure that we're not tying ourselves into knots about election changes and the clerk's deadlines around the election bylaw changes. So I think that's a great way to approach it in the letter. So thank you for that, Darcy.
So let me understand correctly that we're talking about extending everything or just items that are needed for elections?
I'm saying, I'll speak for myself. I would suggest saying that bylaw changes that aren't about the elections should be left open until the end of 2020 or something. Like ask for everything, which would be, let us change the bylaws about non-election things all through the rest of this year, so that we aren't wasting our energy right now on fighting for those like smaller changes when there's major election changes and stuff that really, or if we're talking about taking up bonk time and things, and we're going to have to come up with some scheme to get that done, we should really focus on the things that actually need to be done quickly. So I would just separate the two issues and treat one as urgent and one as something that we can accomplish much later in the year if we need to. We're in an emergency, so.
Well, the letter, the draft letter specifically talks about just election-related changes.
I liked that. I think that got struck, but I liked that, Rachel, so I'd keep that. Okay. But I might separate the two issues to draw some clarity for folks that, like, we know we've bundled these two deadlines, but they don't really need to be bundled, given our current situation. So
I see. You're talking about the July 1st deadline as well.
I'm talking about, I know election things, their clerk needs time to figure out, to get all that stuff sorted out. I think they're going to take way too much time. I'm also in the working group, and they're for elections, and they're not very, anyway, they need a lot of time for some reason to figure all the election stuff out. And so that's fine. But so we need a process to get those bylaw amendments approved like quickly, because we should just probably assume that the clerk's office needs time. Secondarily, we should also just say that all deadlines for bylaw amendments that are not election related should just be delayed until further notice, or until like the emergency ends, till we can start meeting again. So I'll stop talking now. Sorry, this was actually Darcy's said this first, so sorry to speak for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
Rachel,
Darcy?
can I just reply to that?
Yep.
Yeah, so I basically agree. I would separate the two out, and I would say I would ask for an extension on election-related changes,
okay,
and push it back for a limited period of time, and sort of like the planning, say maybe 2 months after you let us have online meetings, and then the rest of the bylaws changes give us, till the end of the year because it's not as much of a time pressure.
Okay. So that means that we would be adding to this letter for non-election related bylaws changes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I'm thinking ask for an extension for, a limited period of time to weigh it, to give amendments that relate to the election.
Okay.
But for other things to keep it open-ended until we're all, back to regular.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you, Darcy. Glenn?
I would support Tony's Braswell's 60-day suggestion, even for the election related, because I am recalling that because Bonk didn't have quorum the last election cycle, they actually were meeting into July with some of the approvals, and somehow, it wasn't all neighborhood councils, a limited number. So that can be done, and given that this is an emergency, not just a lack of quorum, I think if they have to be meeting into July, clerk made it work last time, the city clerk will make it work again. So I'm very, 60 days from the time we have the ability to have meetings, and if that goes, I would say it needs to end by June 30th though. So whenever it starts, 60 days, no later than June 30th. I think that they'll make it work on their end.
Thank you, Glenn. Was there anyone else who would like to speak on this topic before we move on? Okay, I think we're good. Rachel?
Number 5, Erin. Erin's going to give us 5 minutes on something that she's working on, Community Support Best Practices Learning Network for COVID-19.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't even think this will take 5 minutes, but what I'm hoping to do is create what I call a learning network, which is just kind of like gathering ideas from all the neighborhood councils, organizing them in a way that's easily digestible, and then pushing that out to everyone so that we can learn from each other. I know a lot of neighborhood councils are doing really great work right now to support their communities, even without the ability to formally meet. And so I think it's a great idea for us to be able to learn from each other while we're all going through this together. So that includes things like, how are you helping your neighbors right now? How are you spending the $1,000? What are you potentially doing to build community, even as we physically have to stay distant? What kind of communication tools are you using? Things like that. So I've started collecting stuff from a few neighborhood councils, and what I'm asking is 2 things. First, if anyone is interested in helping me do the organization of this, like helping to co-lead, that would be great, because it would be a lot of work. And secondly, I will be sending everyone a Google survey tomorrow morning to start collecting what you've already been doing. And then I will send out to everybody what we've collected and what we've learned. And obviously these are things that you are willing to share with the group. So maybe there might be things that you kind of want to keep separate, and that's okay, but just things that you feel like would be helpful for the group to know, things that your council is doing really well. I'll start there if folks have questions, or if you are interested in helping with this, then put in the comments that you're interested in. I'll get in touch with you. Make sure you have your email address there.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, hi, Paul Storiel, NoHo Neighborhood Council. I just wanted to share something that our outreach committee did. We contacted all of our board members and asked if they would share a video of what they're doing during quarantine. It's on our Instagram, NoHo NC. So they sent in like 15-second, 30-second videos of what they're doing, with the end of their videos saying, we're all in this together, kind of to call, leading the community and saying, hey, it's okay. we're all in this together. So I just wanted to share that idea with you real quick.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm actually going to put myself on the queue. Would anyone else like to speak before I go ahead?
Go ahead.
So I think that this is a wonderful idea, Erin. Like, I am the VP of Outreach for Northridge West, and I think that it would be great to find ways that other folks are doing things. I think that this is a really isolating experience, and I think our demographic is also one that there's a lot of elderly folks that are older who are struggling to do things, just getting groceries and things like that. So I've actually drafted a community letter that's going to go out hopefully soon that just synthesizes. I think one of the things that we're getting is that folks are inundated with a lot of information, and they're feeling overwhelmed by a lot of the different things that are just being circulated. So one of the things that I put together is a letter that kind of synthesizes everything, and then a survey out to folks, just asking them what they could use help with and on, so that way we can kind of modify or act in that way. But I would like to definitely help out in any way that's possible. So thank you so much for that. Next we have Elvina Beck. Elvina, are you there? I guess not. Okay. Is there, I'm going to try her again. Elvina, are you there?
Aww.
Oh, there you are. Yes. Your audio is not working. I can see that you're not muted, but so I would log off and log back on if that works, because that worked for Erin earlier. Thank you. And then I'll get you back in the queue. Thank you. All right.
Okay. So,
Jesse Salcedo, Jesse would like to speak.
Oh, okay.
Jesse? Jesse, are you there? No? Okay, that's fine. Let's try again. Jesse, are you there? Oh, is there anyone else who would like to, let me see. So Clint, did you want to add something?
Yeah, quickly. In the letter that I had each of my board members send to Dunn and the mayor's office and our council office, asking about meetings and all these things that we've just been talking about, we also added a request that Dunn share regularly how neighborhood councils are using their emergency funding and things that neighborhood councils are doing. So, and I think they haven't done that, of course, but I think it'd be another thing, maybe if it could be, I don't know if we need to write a separate letter or something, but it might be a thing to just push with them as well. Like, they should also be a repository for this information and have a way of communicating it back to all of us too. So, but I agree we should probably do something now. We can do something now. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but I do think we should make sure we are pushing some of that back onto Dunn as well.
Clint, I can respond to that a little bit. I also said the same thing to Dunn and was kind of expecting them to take this on, but I don't know that they're going to have the capacity to do this anytime soon. So I talked to Julian, who is amazing, and he does really great work. He said he'd be willing to help and that it could be housed and done, but right now I think it probably makes a little more sense for us to do it first, because then we don't have to go through all of their hoops that are kind of like keeping us from doing a lot right now anyways. But I do think that moving forward, thinking past this emergency, it would be great to have something that's a learning network that is housed by them and a little bit more like built up, I guess. So yeah, I agree.
So I wanted to bring it back. We have Jesse. Are you on the call? Would you like to still say something? And then Elvina, are you able to? It's still not working. I'm so sorry. If you don't mind, you can text it in, and then I'm happy. I don't know, Erin, how you fix the audio, but if you don't mind, maybe you can text it in the box, and it can help Elvina. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you. There's no audio coming from you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak
Lydia Grant.
to this?
This is Lydia Grant. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Lydia.
Okay, so Sutherland-Tonga Neighborhood Council. I wanted to bring something to everybody's attention. First of all, we were starting to put some plans together, and then we were unable to get together because we had meetings. So we have not been violating anything, and we have not been contacting our other board members to put any plans in place because we don't want to get in trouble for doing that. So I'm interested to hear what others are doing, but I'm wondering how you guys are having the discussions as to what you can do moving forward. I mean, we have board members who are doing things as individuals, but we haven't, taken it upon ourselves to contact each other to do anything that we would, see as a violation. Anything we did as a violation would be immediately reported to everybody. So, we try to watch our P's and Q's. But I do want to add something to this, and I think it's really important. We do have a lot of neighborhood council leaders who are putting out the information that the city's giving. I know I want to give you guys an example of something that just happened. We got the posting that the city is doing the testing, what people qualify for to do the testing. As the vice president, I got that information. I shared it out had them put it on our website, had them put it on our Facebook page, and as individuals, we shared it out. But I wanted to give you a heads up, and this is something that did happen. The city, when they were so people went to do the test, some of the people who did the test on my, the fact that I had posted it, they went ahead, the city had emailed all the test results, at least to a group of 217 people, and they did it without BCCing their email addresses. So the city basically gave 217 people 216 other people's test results.
Oh, that's...
So I think that we need to be, I don't know how we could have stopped that information. Of course, it looks bad for my reputation and the credibility I have as a neighborhood council leader trying to get this information out, to now have people contacting me, or people that I know are saying, are they going to publicize my information? So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up as we do try to push out information through our Facebook pages, through our websites. I don't know how we can screen or make sure that the information we're giving out is, one, accurate, and B, something that won't come back to bite us later. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention because it did happen to me. So as we move forward putting stuff out, I'm trying to get everything out that I can that the city is giving us. And I just wanted to let people know that the system isn't perfect. So I just want to let people know maybe we should wait a couple days till we make sure, before putting that out anymore, how to get testing. We should make sure that the city has put something in place to make sure that HIPAA violations are not occurring and that people's identity are not being exposed to each other.
That is entirely unacceptable.
Thank you for that. I just want to remind everyone that we've got about 20 minutes left in the meeting. It looks like we've pretty much segued into items 6, 7, and 8 pretty much all kind of jammed together, which is fine. So let's just...
Tony wanted to speak on this. I think, Tony, did you want to say something? And then David, you.
All right, I've got to unmute. Thanks. One of the things that we've been trying to do with some of our neighbors in the Southeast Valley, when we send out our e-blast to our stakeholders using the mayor's website, which has a lot of great information on it, and the county website, so in 99 individual voices, we're all speaking with one voice. Those are good resources to turn people on to. The other thing, they told us we can't meet and we can't talk, but our board in Valley Village, at least, we're like a family. We take care of each other. And I'll have a conference call to talk to my friends, the people that I serve with, and check on them. And we're trying to be very careful, like Sun Valley said, not to break any rules. But it's really about our group and taking care of our family. And I would encourage you all to do that if you can.
Thank you, Tony. So we have a few comments that have come up. Give me just a moment while I get through these. So we have Laura, and then Michael M, Jeffrey H, and Sam W.
So me first.
Yes, Laura, go ahead.
I have been sending out on behalf of UNNC every day or two a COVID update, and I'm compiling from multiple different sources, not just the mayor or CD10, where I am, but federal sources, bookseller sources, food sources. I'm just giving them diversions as well as COVID updates, because I feel that people are really interested in what the heck they should be doing all day long. And they're reading it. I mean, I can check in our, in the way we send it out with MailChimp, you can see how many people open and how many people click through. And it's extraordinarily much more. I mean, more people are opening these emails, and more importantly, more people are clicking on links. So for example, I think Oklahoma is probably playing as we speak, or some movie is playing tonight that we're not watching because we're right here, but I'm hoping some of our stakeholders are. So I think it's really important not to just stick to the bad news that we're getting every day and the important resources that result, but not just the bad news, because I think we're all at home for another month at least. So, that's my thought. And I don't have to ask board members for any permissions on this just because of the way we work, but I am asking board members to write things up. So one of our board members actually took it upon himself, he and some friends, to translate everything into Spanish. They've got a working document of resources online in Spanish, but I've been posting that to our website and Facebook and to our name, on my e-blast.
Thanks, Laura. Okay.
Ronald, let me just jump in right quick. Aaron, is it possible for you so that you can get your program going? Because that resource, that translation into Spanish really sounds pretty awesome. Would it be possible for you to set up maybe a Google form that people could then submit that kind of stuff to you, and then you could create a database, a clearinghouse?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to send out a Google form exactly tomorrow, and would love for everybody to respond. And then, I'll get a database going of what's happening and try to create some highlights so that you don't have to read through everybody.
Thank you, Aaron.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so we're going to return David U, Mike M, Jeffrey H, Sam W, and Tony W.
Yeah, I did
David?
want to say one of the what Lydia was branching up. That's something that Terrence Gomes, who's Lank chair, is not on this call. We do have 3 presidents amongst the people, on Lank. Of course, Glenn Bailey, myself, and then Tony is head of the DWP. Jack Humphreyville is not a president either. But we have been discussing these items, and I'm hoping it's okay with everybody if we share with Lank as we try to also work on some of these same issues. And we are going to try to have a meeting next week if we're allowed to. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's another way we can try to amplify and coordinate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. We have Mike M.
Yeah, I think Eli Littman might be able to join us here in a sec if we want to hear any update about what he's doing to try and get us technologically advanced here. But I've definitely been very frustrated by Brown Act ever since I joined the Neighborhood Council, and just curious, like, if there is an appetite that if done and if just moving forward with a digital meeting and having a decision be made and fighting that via the circumstances to help change Brown Act would be something worthwhile doing. I just am concerned that with these changes and ideas that we have coming, the change and urgency isn't really there to actually move anything forward, or if just waiting this out and then moving forward accordingly. I know it's a little off topic, but just have that idea. And then if we do want an update from Eli, if we have an appetite to hear from him right now. That's
Thank
Eli
you.
Littman from the Bunk.
Thank you, Mike. Jeffrey, I think there you are. You kind of moved your location. Jeffrey?
All right, I'd just like to compliment Laura and Aaron and wish you luck. I think that I've been trying to get somebody in the city or done to compile, let me just say, the accurate and timely information so that there's one place for people to go as opposed to referencing 4 or 5 or 6 different emails or things that I see and read every day. So I'd love to get on your email list, Laura, just because then I could turn around and forward it out. But anyway, I applaud that and thank you for doing it.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Sam W.
Hi, this is Sam. Thank you guys so much for having this meeting. It's really wonderful. I'm from Van Nuys. First time I'm chiming in, but I just wanted to share what I have done so far with my $1,000 as kind of to see if I can kind of cast the die a little bit. So I looked to see what underserved populations existed in my community that maybe weren't going to be reached by traditional resources given by the city. And one of the things is that people often utilize water dispensaries in Van Nuys, people who don't necessarily have access to good plumbing or filtered water. And so I went out today actually and prepaid for water for 55 families at 2 different locations to receive water. And these little water stores exist all through Los Angeles, and you don't know to look for them unless you're looking for them. And a lot of people use them because they don't really have access to great plumbing. And so it was a very small expenditure to reach a large amount of people. We're going to do it for the next 6 weeks and see how many people we can help. I think this is something that is a minimal expense that can be a good usage of kind of sharing the resources with people that don't normally get the standard resources. And like the volunteer networks are great. We're also working on doing that. But just to be able to actually have people come in for their like daily water and realize that it's paid for was actually really, I think was a great step moving forward. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much.
Also, I added in the comment section a link to a warm line that I run. So if you guys have any questions about that, you can email me offline. And we have trained counselors calling people every day who are in need of support. So
thank you so much for that. Tony W.
I very much like the idea of the what to do while you're sitting at home, including the Spanish language translation of the COVID information. One of the things I think people who want to minimize neighborhood councils do is to view our only role in the community as being little city councils. And then because they see that as the only reason that we ever come together as a board, they say, therefore, you can't talk with each other at all about anything or do anything at all in the community because it might be a violation of the Brown Act. But you look at our elected representatives, they're running programs for youth, they're running women's self-defense courses, they're running apartment managers meetings on how to control problem tenants. And I think that we need to look at ourselves as community change organizations. Yes, most of what we do in our official advice position requires public meetings, public input, and decisions that we take before we take some action to the city council itself. But I think that the more we do those other things that we do well, that are not things that are going to come back to our board for a decision, the more we get freed up from all these people who say, oh, you can't talk to each other. Oh, no. Because we have every public right to talk with each other as individuals. And as a matter of fact, as we go about doing those things that we do collectively, we can mention as identification that we're part of the neighborhood council without this being official neighborhood council business so much as the people on your neighborhood council board are part of your community. We're you, you're us. Here's some information that Tony has or Susan has or whatever that is, here's a movie to watch tonight. I think we should be doing more of this, and we can be holding community public information videos, just like we're having this meeting, without it being a Brown Act problem, because it would be a matter that never comes back to the board. And I think we need to make that distinction, because it's going to free us up a lot from all these fears about, my gosh, we can't talk to each other because of the Brown Act.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. So,
Hello?
Jesse, are you there? Jesse? So Jesse actually submitted to me what she would like me to say because it's not working. So she wanted me to say, wants to share that this is a great idea, and specifically there's an elder director, Margaret Irwin, wanted to ask if other neighborhood councils have a senior elder director that has been coordinating services with the city's seniors. She's been doing much of the legwork, and then she also wanted to share the contact information, which I can go ahead and I will post it to the chat, for margaret.irwin@ernc.la. She's done extensive work coordinating with the Department of Aging and local churches in Eagle Rock. And so a question from her is, what messaging are other neighborhood councils doing to reach out to the city's seniors? Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas on that question for Jesse? You're welcome to reach out to her. I'll go ahead and I will copy paste the email address that's there in the text box for folks who might want to reach out directly. Okay. That is a statement from Jesse. I feel like I'm not doing it justice, so apologies for that. And then we have Elisa. Elisa, are you there?
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, no, you're fine.
I know my
Go ahead.
stomach because my back hurts.
It's okay.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to start off by saying thank you. And thank you to all of the presidents for the hard work that we're trying to do and help our communities. And we're thinking out of the box. What I've been trying to do is I called all my board members as a friend, as a family member, to see how they're doing. Every senior that I know and senior groups, I've been trying to reach out to them. I've been going to food pantries myself. And when I get the box of food, I divide it. And I go myself and I deliver it to the elder people. But since I can't do it anymore because of my immune system, I'm trying to gather volunteers now to do it. So, you know, that's one of the things I'm doing. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. I haven't been working as hard as since this coronavirus came along. I've been emailing all of the politicians on a daily basis, their field directors on a daily basis. And luckily I've been getting answers and I relay them back to my community. That's the best way that I'm seeing that I'm reaching out to my community. I also got in contact with the local schools that are around here and that are willing to answer my phone call. And, you know, just see how we can help them out. I also reached out to some charter principals because they're the ones that are around right now a lot more, and asked them if they can do a video to contact their students. You know, a funny video relating to stay home, be relaxed. That's what I've been trying to do. And I just want to say thank you guys again. And I'm going to go because my back hurts and I need to take my medication. But thank you guys once again, and God bless everybody.
Thank you, Elisa. Be well.
Thank you. Bye.
We have Ginny, Elvina, and Juliana. And apologies, I use the improper pronouns for Jesse, so I wanted to correct myself in that. So Ginny?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on someone who spoke a few minutes ago about the Brown Act. Any changes to the Brown Act would have to be done on the state level by the legislature. So one of the things that we want to probably consider when most of this has passed and we're back to some semblance of normal is to contact our legislators and see what we can do about bringing it up to date to the digital age. It could be part of an emergency provision within the act or whatever might happen. But we have, as individuals, we can contact our assemblymen and senators. but as alliances, which we have at least 7 throughout the city, that would also be something that perhaps they can take up and also then put forth and advocate for. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Ginny. So next we have Elvina.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to touch on the question that was asked earlier on what our neighborhood council is doing. A few months ago, we got the voter logs for some outreach purposes, and we have been using it to pull 2,274 seniors over the age of 65 and phone bank them and to ask if they need a support system or if they happen to have somebody that's going to the store to grab their groceries, their medicine, and so in order for them to stay at home. But those that have reached out have been about 100 people out of the almost 2,000 that we've banked so far. We've also, I speak Russian, so I've been hitting anybody back who speaks Russian. We have a Spanish speaker, Korean, Armenian. And so we've been able to call our neighbors literally and also drop off groceries just on their doorstep as a volunteer group through a nonprofit called Kinder that's in our neighborhood. Also CD413 and Kuhl's office has been working with us too. So we've gotten some resources from them. We've also been connecting our neighbors with other people. There's some distressed hardship like employment, in addition to just not having some money for food at the moment. And so that has led us to thinking maybe we should create ration boxes, like CHNC boxes that we get through either donations or using our income from our monies from in order to deliver specific, so everyone kind of has the same box. So by the way, I'm with the Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council. My name is Elvina. Actually, the mayor gave us a shout out on one of the addresses because we were able to kind of come together rapidly, I'd say, but only 3 of our neighborhood council persons are on any call at any given point because of the Brown Act. So we're still able to be, legal, but then still unite as long as we're not all talking together. We're still being activated on phone banking together or deliveries. So that's kind of what we've done. In fact, we haven't even spent any of the $1,000, but we are ready to deploy when needed. How did we get the voter logs? You can actually get them from the city. We put it on our agenda. I want to say it was like 4 or 5 months ago, and we paid for them. But it was fully approved by our neighborhood council, and we were able to, like I said, pull a specific group of individuals, which is 65 and older, that live in our zip codes. So 90028 and 90038 in order to pull our vicinity. And so we've been phoning, even some people are a little bit out of CHNC boundaries, but even today we got somebody, use your emergency money for that. How much was it? I'll get back to you on the price, but it wasn't $1,000, so you'll still have a lot left over. Are there rules about what you can do with them? I've asked this too. I've definitely asked, one rule is that you're not allowed to give it out. So if you guys were like, hey, can you send it to me? Because it does go beyond Hollywood, we would not be legally allowed to do that. So you would have to get your own because it's private information. But it's a voter log, and as an elected official, you have rights to that. So if you email me, I can put you in touch with Louis, who's on our NC, and he's the outreach chair. And so he was able to actually work all this. I didn't hear the answer of how did you get the voter logs. We submitted to the city to grab the logs and paid for them. So apparently this is a right that we have to obtain these logs if you're an elected official. Restricted to election related.
Thank you, Elvina.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's 8 o'clock already. So, and there's a couple
definitely.
folks.
Just email
No,
me,
it's okay.
elvina@chnc.org.
If you can type in your email address in the chat, that'd be great. Juliana has been patiently waiting.
Hi, I just wanted to say that we have a independent food bank in our neighborhood. I know Laura has already worked with them, but it's called World Harvest, and they've partnered with Postmates to organize direct delivery of food, so that you can do a Postmates order from the food bank, or you can do a drive-through order from the food bank. So if you've got a food bank in your neighborhood that isn't doing that already, you might want to suggest it to them. That's all.
Thank you, Juliana. There is a hand that came up from Glenn Bailey.
Just those of you that have the new shelters, the recreation center shelters for the unhoused, contact the park director and see if they need anything. We found out that ours did. The Red Cross or whoever the sponsoring group is providing basically what's needed for the shelter operations, but the city is not providing what the park folks might need, and they need cleaning supplies, sanitizers, everything for their use as part of what they're doing there. So just a suggestion for and ultimately there'll be 42 recreation centers that are going to be used for this. So just a suggestion.
Thank you, Glenn. Paul would like to share with folks some information about the Facebook page.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I know when I sent out my original email to everybody, I accidentally did not BCC it. So if you're going to use those emails, try to BCC them so not everybody's replying to each other. But about the Facebook page, this should have been done a long time ago, but it's a great, now that we have it, it's incredible that we can all talk, because there's going to be a lot more power now that we are all familiar with each other. So I just wanted to say, please have the Facebook page, and I'm going to try to figure out, I can't figure out how to get, I think I have to add people as friends to get them to have other administrators. So if anybody wants to be an administrator, let me know. I have to figure out how to do that. But thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you all for conducting this meeting. It's been great.
Thank you, Paul. Darcy?
Oh, yeah. Hi. I just wanted to second the suggestion about the rec centers turned into shelters. We just spoke to the director of ours in Echo Park, and what we're hearing from several shelters is they're desperate for entertainment, and if it gets really bad, they may not even stay for too long. So, we're trying to figure out how to get a TV and a Netflix subscription, books and magazines and stuff like that, and then coffee. Like, they get meals, they don't have any coffee. So and also extension cords so people can charge their devices. So that's what we got, and we're looking into spending our emergency funds on that until we figure out how to spend the rest.
Thank you, Darcy. I think we are going to have to wrap things up. Rachel?
Yes. What I want to say as we finish this meeting is, first of all, thank you everyone for participating. I want you to know that at one point we had close to 80 people on this call. Now, I think that this meeting is proof positive that no matter how many people we have on a Zoom call or whatever teleconferencing application that wants to be used, that most certainly we are grown up enough to be able to run a meeting without all kinds of particular training or anything like that. So if Dunn wants to, or the city wants to come at us and say that, you need X, Y, and Z training, et cetera, I will personally send a copy of this recording to them to tell them that they're full of crap. Okay, because I just, it really frustrates me and irks me that they're trying to pull this kind of stuff with us when we are independent, deliberative bodies. And so I just wanted to put that out into the universe, because I really think that we need to push back on the overreach of the city and Dunn, as it pertains to our neighborhood councils. Thank you everyone for coming. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for the positive and affirming comments as well. Much appreciated.
Yes.
So moved.
So thank you.
I'll second.
We're gonna, Ron, we were
We're
gonna,
gonna stick around for, we can keep it open for another 10 to 10 minutes, I think,
yeah,
for folks.
just in case there's stuff that you want to copy and
folks
paste
want
out
to,
of the chat,
yeah.
all of that kind of
Thank
stuff.
you, everyone. Be well, be safe. Wishing everyone good health.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.